The charge stemmed from allegations that Martin struck a 14-year-old student while driving an unmarked police vehicle on the priority bus route in San Juan. The student suffered foot fractures. Martin, who pleaded not guilty, remained head of the Professional Standards Bureau throughout the proceedings. No reason was given for the case's discontinuance. A family dispute over missing items has left a 43-year-old man nursing a gunshot wound and another relative on the run. The incident occurred around 6:30 a.m. on December 15th in Guapo. Police say the victim went to a female relative's home over claims of missing items from a family house in La Brea. A male relative allegedly appeared with a homemade shotgun, fired and struck the man in the right knee. The victim fled and alerted police, but the shooter remains at large. Officers from the Southwestern Division Task Force are continuing their search, with WPC Regis leading investigations. Police are investigating the discovery of human skeletal remains in an overgrown area in La Romaine on December 16th. A 66-year-old retiree found the remains around 7 a.m. while hunting near the Southern Main Road and alerted authorities. Officers from the Southern Division and Homicide Bureau responded, and the remains were removed for examination at the Forensic Science Center. Due to the advanced decomposition, police were unable to determine the identity, race, or gender. Investigations are ongoing, and anyone with information is urged to contact the police or Crime Stoppers at 800-TIPS. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for watching.
WESN. WESN.
We have a full show today. I don't have much time to get into everything I want to say, so I'll try and be as brief as possible. Now, of course, there was a report that DCP Martin has been cleared of dangerous driving. There was a dangerous driving charge, one of two controversial incidents that were hanging up in the air with regards to her, and which made, in my opinion at least, and I believe in the opinion of at least one other caller, her promotion to DCP somewhat controversial. Now, it's interesting how this case unfurled. Now, before this case even happened, I actually did intend to come back this morning and do a follow-up to the answer I gave to the question I was asked by my co-host yesterday, because I took a very strong stance that he did not necessarily agree with regards to the reappointment of the head of the PCA. Now, he asked me about the DPP, and if I think he should also be removed or what have you. I can't remember the framework by which he gave his question context, but I will say this. If the conditions are similar in that 10 years later, he's up for reappointment, and yes, he may have made some complaints and done some things, and for the most part done the job okay to well, but we don't really see any sort of improvement, regardless of the reasons why. I think institutionally, this is where even private business will say, well, maybe we need a change. Even if it's not directly your fault, as a stakeholder, there's influence to be exerted. There's things to be done. And also, to some extent, I personally don't necessarily like people just, well, it is what it is, and I'll accept the check, and I'll still do the fight, but I'm not able to find a way to actually improve the situation. Well, at that point, then, history is loaded with individuals who walk away from situations like that when they have reached the point of, this is the best I could do, I cannot improve it any further, maybe someone else can. And 10 years also is a long time in a position like that. And I'm saying 10 years. And I'm basing this on how I view myself. Talking point is, I don't even think 4 years old, or maybe 4 years old. And already, I do wonder if the commentary of this show is making a difference in the national conversation. Most people would think the point of a TV show is to have viewers, sell advertising, make money. And yes, that is what, generally speaking, I have that responsibility to have a show that is marketable for that purpose, at least to the point where it could not suffer a loss for the station and for the people working for the station. But ultimately, I and all 4 years in have started to question if this is not actually contributing to some sort of improvement, should it even exist? Not that I'm close to that point or I'm asking people to call in and say how much you don't want to see me go. That's not what this is about. This is about the fact that I am willing to judge myself by my own standards. And in fact, to some extent, you could say on harsher standards, because I'm not waiting 10 years to have these questions for myself. But I'm willing to say, 10 years in, maybe we should have those questions about state officials. Now, the case with DCP Martin, apparently, the arresting officer that laid the charge has essentially come out now, and I want to make sure I quote the report right. I believe there's evidence to say that, including the CCTV footage of the incident where a vehicle hit a 14-year-old, that the arresting officer I just want to make sure, why can't I find this part here? Essentially, it seems as though, based on the evidence, they decided to dismiss the case. And there's a framing, a narrative, a demonstration of justice and independence in what can safely be viewed as mischief and desperation, meaning the accusations may have been in bad faith. Now, technically speaking, it can be true that, yes, this officer is part of another controversial situation with regards to the Brent Thomas abduction. She was, I believe, the senior officer involved in that case. That's on the record. The police investigation has closed this case, apparently based on the evidence sufficient enough, I believe, for the judge to accept. That could be true. It could be true that she's clear in this case. One of the things that I find interesting, though, is during the course of this case when charges were filed, she was then head of the Professional Standards Bureau, and she was not suspended. That has nothing to do with her, but rather police procedure. I just make that mention to acknowledge it. Now we set it aside. At the end of the day, I guess this is just one of those things where, to some degree, we may have to accept it. I don't necessarily like it because there are still reports that the father of the teenager involved, he didn't necessarily agree with the decision. But again, we don't know who's necessarily acting in bad faith here 100%. I haven't seen the footage of the incident myself. But I'm willing to accept the court's decision because at some point, regardless of whether we accept it or not, it is what it is. There's still questions to be answered for. Does this cause me to have questions over the DPP? No. However, the general pace of the criminal justice system, we've reached the point now where, yes, we understand that we have issues with the judiciary, we have issues with the police prosecutors, showing up to court, with which file goes missing and all of that. At some point, though, I think everything needs to be examined with a fine-tooth comb, but we should not just examine the police with a fine-tooth comb. That would essentially be doing what the Minister of Finance did. You would have a conclusion and you'll be trying to work backwards to prove your conclusion. Not that I think the DPP is guilty of any sort of misconduct, but we should look at everything. Even if there's no bad intentions there, there might be faults or procedural limitations with the DPP's office that could be uncovered. Everything with the criminal justice system, I think now, needs to be looked at with a fine-tooth comb. And I hope that we don't have an incident that's now maybe causing the fire service to look at some aspects of their operations, as well as continue the blame game. We don't have anything severe like that in the criminal justice system, but then again, we have almost 600 murders, so to some extent, one could argue it is more severe. So with that said, I want to go on to that topic quick this morning. Let's kick off today's daily review. Right, so there's a blame game going around. To summarize, the Minister of Public Utilities, he has come out, he had a detailed response yesterday, so I'm not too sure if it was at the time of talking point or after the time of talking point, but he had a detailed response speaking about the facilities at the Hollis Reservoir, the production level, and it was ramped up on December 12th. It was increased again 3 days later. He hasn't necessarily said to what extent. He believes the area had a reliable supply, and then he asserted WASA was aware of the fire at 4:30 a.m., and immediate action was taken to divert supply via the Subaru Street booster to increase the pressure in the area. Now, that part is an interesting and somewhat controversial statement because it is considered half an hour to 45 minutes earlier than the reports sent to the fire service. Now, with regards to the residents in the area, some are complaining, yes, we had low water, some are complaining that we had water. The fire service itself has come out to say just because there is water doesn't mean that there is sufficient pressure coming through the hydrant in order to essentially feed the hoses that are high volume, high pressure hoses. This is not like a little garden hose, a little garden nozzle, right? And you can't just have a trickle of water coming through a fire hose and expect it to spray onto the fire with enough force and coverage. You don't want to have to literally stand next to the flames to have to pour the water from the hose on. You need pressure, right? I understand that, which again goes back to, as much as the minister gave us a detailed explanation, and I do believe that at the very least the minister has good reason to believe that everything that he said was true. That does not absolutely translate that there was sufficient water pressure in the pipes at that time. Now, some of the residents said that there was water in the pipes, and this is what's interesting. And we don't necessarily know why this happened, but apparently the fire service, they did not, according to some neighbors, so this might not be true. This is just what they observed, but it doesn't necessarily say what was done or what decisions the fire service made before they made this observation. Apparently, according to them, the fire service never actually checked the hydrants, the water pressure in the hydrants, despite the fact that some neighbors were saying there was water in the main at the time. And they assume or they believe that the fire service was going off of other people saying they don't have water in the line. So there are conflicting reports from residents in the area about whether or not there is water. No one is speaking directly about water pressure. I am not entirely sure, except the fire service. But I'm not entirely sure if they literally have on the record someone saying the water pressure was not sufficient, and the neighbors saying that they did not check the water pressure in the hydrants. Well, that's a minor issue that's made larger because apparently some of the people in the area went to the fire service directly to report the fire. And in the case of one stakeholder, one member of the community, he believes that even though they didn't necessarily have fire trucks to respond, there were fire officers still at the station who potentially could have responded and attempt to pull out the minister and her 2 children. They believe that if fire officers responded on the scene to do what they could, they potentially could have rescued the minister. Now, of course, that is not expert testimony to know for sure that the minister could have been saved by fire officers without a water tender. We don't know to what extent, what equipment, safety equipment they would have had, breathing apparatus, full fire uniforms, etc., etc. Shortage of breathing apparatus at one point in time was an issue that the association, the Fire Services Association, was bringing up. But it leaves a damning question in the sense of some people are saying, well, they just said the other station is responding, or another station is responding to a fire that is right around the corner. And to some extent, and this is what gets me, the implication is, and again, I don't know what the officers exactly did, it is implied by how the article is framed, they did not leave the station. One would think at the very least the fire officers would be on the scene in order to make sure that nobody tries to do anything foolish like go into the house untrained and unprepared. At the very least to keep the rest of the civilians back, to potentially assess the situation, be on the scene, try to update whichever fire truck, fire service headquarters on the situation that potentially could give their bosses a more informed decision as opposed to depending on normal civilians in the area dialing 999 to give information. So all of these things, there's still a lot of questions there, right? I think the minister believes in what he says, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all the way down from the booster stations to the house that everything was working. We don't necessarily know why. But again, now there's testimony that brings into question if the firemen even checked. Now, with that said, there's also concerns with regards to the minister that, not with regards to the minister herself, who unfortunately passed away, but rather with regards to other government members who were able to go into the house and, I believe, see the body. The issues are with regards to the potential crime scene that it is. Investigators still have to now clear the situation. If it's not a crime scene, they have to declare it not a crime scene, from what I understand. And to some extent, now that there are all sorts of people that should not necessarily have gone into the house, going into the house, the sanctity of the crime scene may have been violated and potentially corrupted. This is something that I thought about but didn't necessarily want to speak about. The potential that there was foul play here. It would be very unfortunate if, and it's not that I think the ministers had bad intentions. There will be some who think that that might be the case, but I don't think so. It's just that this is the nature of evidence. You can't take anything to chance. You have to remove all reasonable doubt if you want to prosecute anyone responsible for any sort of crime, particularly serious crime like this. Now, I will close with this topic. Just with the Prime Minister said something, and I believe this is in line with what Keaton and I were saying, particularly Keaton yesterday, that Lisa Morris-Julian was the best of the government. The best of the best within his government. And he was quoted as saying, "I was never to know that that was the last time I would be seeing the best representative in the government of Trinidad and Tobago." And then he went on to say, "I was covered in tears because the loss of Lisa Morris to me it comes close to wanting to question faith. How could this be?" And I guess this is in line with what I said yesterday. It doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem fair. I want to move on to the next topic very quickly. It's a controversial one, which we'll probably not know entirely what's going on, but of course, coalition talk has been ongoing for the last week and a half. Now, what's interesting is, first of all, the Prime Minister basically had a throwaway line that the PNM will protect TNT from any UNC coalition. I'm paraphrasing. He said, protect TNT from that. I do wish he would, if he wanted to say something to that extent, have more to say that was a bit more substantial. I mean, I understand, yes, he is going to say something along those lines, but that statement is a bit of a throwaway and a bit incendiary for no practical gain. But all right, c'est la vie. The report that had that as the headline did not necessarily have anything else to contribute with regards to the Prime Minister's statements on the matter. And to me, it made it seem a bit like a funny report. Now, there's other commentary on the potential of the new UNC alliance, which I have already pointed out. They did say not too long ago, we could go it alone. We go in it alone, we don't need nobody. Small parties need to justify themselves and not use our resources, blah, blah, blah. Was that really just because they didn't want to ally with the NTA? Or did a faction think we could go it alone, and now all of a sudden they had to reverse the position? We know one party that's not going to be part of the alliance at all. That's the party in Tobago, the TPP. And I think it's not unexpected. The UNC and the Vote Kamala campaign was probably the least popular in Tobago in their re-election efforts back in 2015. Now, what is surprising is the fact that one daily newspaper, the same daily newspaper with that headline, commenting or utilizing a single sentence of a quote from the Prime Minister as a headline and then going on into other people and what other people said and having no follow-up to what the Prime Minister said and why he said that, or not enough. They have another article with regards to the COP and HOPE and what was alliance talks with the NTA, apparently, according to the article, is still on. Now, there is a quote by Karen Sherry, the good lady is here, and she will address that to some extent. But I actually want to point out that the basis of the COP's inclusion in the article was a story from, I believe, the day before when the COP said they haven't had anything signed yet. But there was also an article from that same day also saying that the COP had intentions to sign with the UNC, if my memory serves correct. So I do wonder, yes, in the past there were talks between the COP and the NTA, and with HOPE as well, but I am not entirely sure that the statements of this article or the impression that it says to make you think that the COP was shifting gears from alliance with the UNC, and this is where it might be subjective. This is where I am wondering, okay, what is the point of this article? Because, yes, they haven't entered in an official partnership with the UNC, but now they did contact the interim leader of the COP and said he could not confirm that an agreement with the NTA would be signed off this week. There's a memorandum of understanding, he said. But it seems as though the situation with the NTA was not affirmed, but rather put on pause, not necessarily cancelled either. So this sort of commentary now, because to some extent, it seems as though lines are being drawn, and the narrative in the media generally and naturally, even if they don't necessarily intend for it to be so, it's just going to come across as though there are two sides, and what side are all of the other people, not the PNM, going to choose for the upcoming election between the NT and the UNC? Meanwhile, at the end of the day, to what extent is there movers and shakers making deals, political infighting, hard feelings? Jack Warner came out, there's a report today saying he wants back in the UNC. I was kind of confused. I thought he was back since last year for the local. But I believe he may be asking for like an official position, maybe an MP to run for, or something like that, despite the fact that he's 81. Also, potentially, despite the fact that he had good things to say about Guy Griffith, just like the rest of the UNC then. And this is one of the things that kind of makes me very uncomfortable with all of these political alliances. It seems as though the consistency of the message is just not there. Enemies today, friends tomorrow, and then enemies by the next week. I don't understand. The wiffle-waffling on who do we trust, it potentially will only go to hurt everyone involved as opposed to building them up by being more than the sum of its parts. Let's take a break. We welcome the good lady. Stay tuned. This is Talking About WS, and we'll be right back after this.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
Having trouble Christmas shopping? Check out the Kids Shop today. For all your officially licensed kid character merchandise, we carry characters such as Disney Princess, Frozen, Spider-Man, Paw Patrol, Sonic, My Little Pony, and much more. Call or visit us on Facebook or Instagram. Nationwide delivery available. The Kids Shop, for all your licensed kids character merchandise.
Do you need treatment for obesity or any related abdominal procedures? The community hospital now offers minimally invasive laparoscopic surgery done by an American-trained, board-certified surgeon with over 20 years' experience. Give us a call at 235-5479 for more information.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios. But they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
Here's your chance to win a bicycle, a ride-on, or a hoverboard. Shop at dbesttoys.com and spend $300 or more to win big.
We've got Bobby,
Hot Wheels,
Gel blasters. Ride-ons.
Leapfrog.
Nerf. Bicycles and tricycles.
Greco and Wonder Baby.
Visit us in store at Forces Flagship, McLean, Movitown, Port of Spain, Eastgate Small and M6 Plaza, Endeavour. Merry Christmas, everyone!
God bless us, everyone.
These glowing words spoken by Tiny Tim have warmed the hearts of millions the world over. Now hear Tiny Tim and all the other wonderful people in this unforgettable story speaking their immortal lines as the most joyous of all Dickens classics reaches new heights of greatness on the screen.
So a Merry Christmas to you anyway, Uncle.
Good evening.
And a Happy New Year.
Good evening. Humbug! It's all humbug, I tell you. Mercy.
And we're back and talk about the WSND Content Capital. I am joined, as always, good lady herself, Karina Shishera. A lot to get through today. Of course, I don't know where necessarily you want to start. Before we have our main topic, we have a couple of things just to mention briefly. I do think, well, I don't know if you want to speak with regards to the unfortunate passing of the MP of W. first.
Lisa Morris.
Julian, yes.
Julian. Yes, I just want to say very quickly, I do feel it was heartfelt condolences to the family. As a mother myself, as a wife, well, widow, but still a wife, and I understand the pain it must be for her husband and those children, just children of different ages. And I guess it struck me even more so because I was, when they reconfigured a lot of the boundaries to constitute 41 instead of 36, W. Mira absorbed parts of other constituencies. So I was the first MP for W. Mira, so it holds a special place in my heart. And I really do extend heartfelt condolences, especially the tragic way in which she lost her life, and at a time like this. Please accept from me and from Hope, but on a personal level, my own condolences to the family of Morris Julian.
Now, with that said, the whole alliance talk, this is one of those things where until Credit Karen agreed, to some extent, we can't not speak about it or not address it.
Exactly.
So, of course, you have been quoted in one of the articles, but what do you have to say to that quote? Because it seems as though the article might not be fully representing everything that you said.
Right. So, in all fairness to the reporter who gave me a recording, audio recording of what I said, so I want to, to make sure that whatever I said to the public, I try to be transparent and accountable, because you can't tell people to be so and you're not so. So, I think it was more a question of the reporter coming to a conclusion. The question I was told really, was that the head of the NTA had said that we were going to sign an agreement next week. Well, that was news to me. What I will say is, and I actually brought this with me, this was something from United Kingdom, and there was an article that had been approved by the government, and it talked about the duties of MP and a minister. And the first one is one of honor, safety, and security in the national interest. The second is your constituents. The third is your party. And they say the third interests, the second and third interests are subordinate to the first. So what's the first interest? The national interest. So in terms of discussions with anybody, and I think that is Hope's position and has been Hope's position, we are willing to speak and have discussions with any party once we can come to a common ground. To say that you reach an agreement, that's I certainly am not in a position to make that statement. That is a statement that will have to come from the political leader. And I do think that towards the end of the interview, I did say that since he was, it was diving deeper, that I think that those questions needed to be addressed to the political leader. But at the end of the day, any party that is willing to share common values, common what we all want for Trinidad and Tobago, we're certainly willing to have an agreement. And the reason you would have to have an agreement is because maybe the lawyer in me and also our leader, political leader, Ms. Hammersmith, well, he already experienced what has happened in previous incarnations of putting together, cobbling together different parties and the fallout from that. So I think what one would want to say on that is that if we reach to that point where no matter who the party is, COP, the Memorandum of Understanding, NTA, it really is a question of common goals, common values, and putting together something that is sufficiently watertight that the people of the country feel that if and when they put us into office, that we will stick together. Because, in a strange way, it is a quasi sort of response to the first past the post. First past the post leaves off half the country.
Right.
And shuts them out. This type of accommodation without a constitutional reform allows different voices to be part of a solution and to be part of a way forward for the country. So I think that's about what I could say on that.
And just to clarify, and that includes, so that means the door with working with the UNC has not been closed in any way, shape, or form?
No, it has not, or the NTA, or to any, or as we already established, COP, or any group. I think we all committed. I mean, I will say this, I'm sure this is the view of Hope, but I can say that this is not just a view of Hope, because as I would be part of it, I am of the firm view, conviction, that, another 5 years of this BNM and what we've experienced, and I said that we would just mention some of them yesterday, it would be disastrous. It would be almost entering into a dictatorship, because there's already showing dictatorial tendencies in the way that they operate and the way in which they show a level of insensitivity, let them eat cake, which she didn't say, Marie Antoinette, by the way. But the fact of it, it stands for persons who are living in an ivory tower. Either they don't care, insensitive, or and another 5 years, what you would be doing is saying, you see all that you have done in the last 5, 10 years, especially the last few years, as bad as it is and as terrible as it is, we're still going to put you there. Well, you're giving me free sheet to do whatever I want to do. And I am convinced that they do need time out, they do need to be out of office, they do need to recalibrate themselves, and we do need definitely a change of leadership.
Well, and I think it comes back down to accountability. If accountability is bad and we continue to approve of the situation, well then we're kind of setting ourselves up for it to get worse. And this seems almost like a recurring segment with regards to the type of content, because this is not the first time you have looked at the news in a given singular period and seen multiple news stories of multiple new incidents that brings up questions with regards to trust and confidence in the government, accountability of certain policy decisions and implementations, and essentially, one could argue if this was a different country, any one of these might be a major controversy that could threaten a re-election campaign. Not necessarily going to say that it would derail a re-election campaign on its own, but this might be the second, third, or fourth time you've come with a cluster of different incidents that you've observed that all kind of have a similar question. So I hope the audience doesn't think that it's the same thing. It's not. These are new things. It's just that they're new things that leave us asking similar questions.
New things that do have a history in terms of, you know, reaching a point where, I mean, I genuinely mean this, you know, I mean, in terms of, I am, what's is it flummoxed? I don't know what the word is really to use to explain my dismay in what is happening in Trinidad. So I'll use 3 examples that I had mentioned. And one of them was an article written about warning the mix in Trinidad Guardian. As far as the investigative reporter reported, Warner, who is known to be a very, very good friend of the Prime Minister, that is a matter of public knowledge, apparently from what their own investigation shows, that he does not have a license to be quarrying material which he's using allegedly to mix it, to create concrete with a company that he owns and provide it to the airport. That is for 3 million people, when about 2,000 people, visitors, non-Trinidadians, people coming on holidays, on average, according to the CSO, go to Tobago. I don't know if the airport is a hotel. It must be a hotel because it's more than 2.5 times the population of Trinidad, but maybe it's a hotel and maybe I don't know that.
Maybe it's a tourist attraction.
Maybe it's a hotel. And maybe it's something else. But whatever it is, the fact of the matter is, it's that, and you see, this situation is very worrying, that because the minister responsible is the minister in the office of the Prime Minister, the Minister of Energy and Mining, and according to the papers, Don Karen Teixeira, the anointed one, or was the anointed one, until he got so much pushback, so it appears, from the PNM, within the PNM, that he had to let him go. But you understand that he is the one, as the minister responsible for mining also, he didn't know that this was going on. He didn't know the man didn't have a license. You have to pay for those licenses.
Well, apparently, according to somebody else operating the space, Mr. Warner, according to this individual, did nothing wrong because many contractors do quarry without the correct paperwork. Which that, as much as I'm not flummoxed by the bad news coming out of politics, for him to say that out loud, to say, oh, it's fine, we all break the law.
Well, no, what it says is we've reached new depths, new lows, because what you're doing is normalizing corruption. Because if the story is correct, then you're normalizing corruption, because this comes in the heels of another quarrying site that the court, the judiciary, which is your third arm of your constitutional democracy, shut it down, including the equipment. And yet, on June the 5th, the son of the same Mr. Warner, a good friend, was granted a license, a temporary license, to be able to work that same quarry that for which he had no license. Previously, he was granted this license. And this is one of the anointed ones. Anointed one, because that's what they said in the papers. I'm following what they say in the papers. So that was one incident. I mean, I was just taken aback. I see the bold-facedness of it. the lack, I mean, is, you know, it is, I mean, if that it does not smell of corruption, I don't know what else it is. If this was in the United States, if this was in a so-called developed country, which we're trying to aspire to be, you know how, you know what the outcome would be of that?
I've said this before. Mr. Warner, being the position he is, giving gifts to the Prime Minister, he needs to be squeaky clean if he doesn't want people to question his if
but
he
he's
doesn't want
doing
people,
something
an accusation.
illegal. It's just saying he's doing something illegal. Nothing is wrong with that, somebody being your friend, because it's a small country.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with him being your friend. But if you're his friend, you can't be doing things like quarrying without a license.
Not only that,
all of those other things.
You will make sure you cross your T's and dot your I's and get your PS involved to make sure
that your friend,
when per question that is your friend, that you are able to stand up to scrutiny.
Yes.
That is what you will do.
So nobody's
no saying
special favor for your friend.
So no, but it's not only no special favor, it's seen as an illegal favor.
Yes.
And it's the second time around. Okay? So this is where the issue is. It just speaks to lack of transparency and accountability and a lack of confidence. That's one. The second one is the sofa. You know, I think the Prime Minister, with all due respect, and that's why he's so angry, and I saw a clip from another, I think it was from St. Vincent, they say, well, you know, they would, I mean, the article, the article was, they actually had the video of the interview, after 3 days after the
embassy?
After the embassy had released the SOFA and other agreements that were signed on the 10th of December. Is it not strange that the Minister of Foreign Affairs and CARICOM Affairs, who was the next one that they were saying was going to be the person that the Prime Minister was favoring to go in his seat, you couldn't say anything to the people? Well, I'll tell you from being in government. My view is, and I might be wrong, but I believe that the U.S. Embassy said you're not going to publish it. You're not going to let the people know what is going on, where we are going to put it in there. Because it was 3 days later and not a word from the Minister of Foreign Affairs on that. Not a word. And it is the Embassy of the United States that published it. And why is it putting our Prime Minister between a rock and a hard place and being so defensive and talking about tutorial, and he can't answer a question straight? An intelligent man like that, he can't answer a straight answer. Tell the people and talk about we have no fight in Trinidad. You very well know what they mean. They mean that should there be an outbreak of any kind of war or any military nature, and they're talking about obviously Venezuela because it's just right off the coast of Trinidad, that SOFA allows the Americans to put up a quasi-military operation on our lands to be able to facilitate any kind of response, any kind of military incursion into Venezuela.
And I think the key point is it doesn't have to be anything that threatens us.
Yes,
it could be a threat to Guyana.
But this is
but they could operate out of Trinidad.
Not only that, what is it saying? If United States, as long as it doesn't have to have anything to do with us having as my understanding, that there's some kind of, because it's a peaceful place. What are you talking about? That's not what that is about. Come on, you're taking people to be fools. You know what Maduro is seeing that.
I mean, if Trinidad is a peaceful place, why do we have a regiment for a defense
but not
force?
even that. What I think he's trying to deflect, as if he doesn't understand what his SOFA means. What his SOFA means, I mean, it's clear, but especially now Mr. Trump in office, and they put maximum pressure on Maduro and were not successful. They did everything by way of putting in sanctions against them. What that means is that Maduro is looking on to see Trinidad's response. Are you going to take the side of Venezuela that's claiming 2/3 of Guyana, which is a CARICOM country? Are you going to run afoul of United States that if they do not give you an extended OFAC license, because it comes to end in October, that's in relation to Dragonfly, which you projected as being the savior. It's not we said that, you know. And in fact, could never be the savior, because according to the reports, the most they will get initially, that's from Reuters, there is 150, 187 million cubic feet initially. Then it went up to 350, and 50 would go to the downstream, which is where we make the money because our feedstock to create all those petrochemical products, and 300 will go to the LNG, which is just taking the natural gas out of the country and to be used elsewhere. So Dragonfield, they're thinking about Lauren Manatees. It has 10 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. 70% of it is in Venezuelan waters. The Coquille Manatee, most of it is in our waters. But still, when you look at it, Venezuela plays a key part in us being able to address the shortage of natural gas production in this country. And OFAC is the stumbling block. And OFAC uses sanctions as a way for compliance. And now with SOFA being added in the mix, what is going beyond just OFAC, but another message that the embassy is sending to us is, should there be an outbreak of any kind of war between Guyana and Venezuela, or Venezuela and I think America will want to protect its interests, because ExxonMobil is the operator in Guyana, and they always use that as a reason to go in a country to say they're protecting a U.S. interest, not only the people, but their interests. Can use Trinidad and Tobago as a base, and a lot of immunities that go with that. And he got so angry. He was so angry, and he would not answer the question straight. The answer is that Maduro is looking on. Maduro is not going to be happy with you, but you can't go off, you can't fall afoul of America with OFAC, because guess who won't go ahead with it? Shell. And then you said that Shell never asked for an extension. When Reuters, which I am going to take their word for it, Reuters said that they approached OFAC for a 15-year extension so that they could exchange money for the gas from Dragonfield, and they were turned down. And then our Minister of Energy said that's not true. But you know what? I feel I'm going to go with Reuters, right? So now the SOFA issue is causing that Prime Minister a lot of headache, because he is between a rock and a hard place. How is he getting himself out of it? Which is why he's walking around in circles around circles. This time he didn't know how to answer. I'm talking about he did not give it to, and he still won't answer the question. And the last one is, I'll say four, and the last one, or third one, is with the pharmaceutical industry. I did notice, now I might be wrong, that you were not seeing generic medication as easily available as before. Now, I did consultancy many, many years ago for Eastern Caribbean countries, and they have to get, for generic medication to be offered to the public, you have to come up to WHO standards, because most of these medications have licenses that last for X amount of years, and after that, then it's open, but you have to reach WHO standards, right? Now you learn from the committee or organization that deals with pharmaceuticals that 70% of the pharmaceutical industry is controlled by one group of persons.
I think it's 75.
75, but they're even worse than I thought. And and what that means is that they're controlling the prices, and they are controlling what is, to get that, the trade industry has to allow it. And the Fair Trading Commission says, I did not read the legislation, but I will take the word of the organization, and I could read it, I'm sure it's there, that once you pass 40% of control or in a particular area of enterprise, that is a situation where you're looking at unfair competition. I think 75% more than does that. So that's why I'm going to call it out. When I went to Massey to go there, I was saying that Massey Pharmaceuticals is no longer controlled by Massey. I asked them. They said, no, they don't control Massey Pharmaceuticals anymore. So they are keeping the names of all these different companies, I imagine, for them to have 75% control. Something has to be wrong with that, because the prices of pharmaceuticals, simple pharmaceuticals, have gone up, and the ability to get generic
alternatives.
And something is going on.
It just so happened that after speaking to you, I heard someone give their story, anecdotal, their experience, not asked with regards to this context, right? that yes, the price of pharmaceuticals all of a sudden to them, and I believe this is a practitioner in the health industry, it's just gone up.
And that is why
they can't get their own medication.
And that is why I went to my doctor and I told him, I said, when I go to certain stores, which are obviously, or pharmacies, that the price of the medication that I use is just exponentially, every time I go every month, it's just going up, going up, going up. I asked him, why every month it's going up? So now I go to one place that they don't control. And I asked my doctor, I said, is it safe? Because a lot of time people say there's a suitcase trade, they are not up to standard and so on. But he assured me, so I could tell you, you see the 75%? You'll hardly ever see me in your 75%. But I know where to go for this time, because there's something is wrong that a government and a ministry and a prime minister could allow that. And the last thing is, you see that SRC thing? It's not a question of whether or not they don't work hard. MPs do work hard if they are really serious about their job.
Well, right now, not a lot of MPs.
But some of them do.
Do the constituents say are even seen?
But I always want to say that, and that's an unfair thing. I'm going to defend that. You know why I'm going to defend that? Because, I want to come to my point, and I will answer that.
Okay.
Why is a bad taste in people's mouth now is let them eat cake. She did not say it, Marie Antoinette. I found it was Jean-Jacques Rousseau who had said that. But the point was that when they had the French Revolution, which I'm not advocating anything of that nature, but what they did is they used that as a clarion call, meaning that it represented, because apparently for the average French person, the poor, 50% of their budget was spent on food and 5% on fuel. So food was important to them. And the type of bread, the brioche, has egg and butter. It's expensive. Anyway, the bottom line is this. Let them eat cake represents the people, the insensitivity, the lack of care, the lack of concern, and the greed. And that is why that SRC, which is appointed by the same president who appointed by the same prime minister through the electoral college, appoints these SRC, and the president and the prime minister were the greatest benefactors of that increase. And that is where people, and you're telling people you are giving them 2%, you're telling people take 4%, and the cost of living is going through the roof. You cannot, this is something that affecting each and every citizen in this country, and it's just not, it's not a good look, it's bad optics, and it shows a lack of, that is what got NAR in trouble, you know. NAR never had a reputation, as far as I can remember, of being corrupt, you know.
Right.
But you know what their reputation was? That they were up in an ivory tower, being clinical about solving problems, and not understand. That's the same thing with the IMF early in Jamaica. That's why they got in trouble too.
Right.
Because what they did, they don't understand. You cannot take a technical thing with a report from some consultant. You're dealing with people, and people are watching and saying, you telling me, and telling me we have no money, we can't pay you anything, the country have no money, but you taking that kind of increase? Something wrong with that.
Just by the way, unions have to negotiate for 2020 to 2023. Yeah, we even reached 2024 negotiations yet, right? But here's the thing.
What did I say I was going to answer? So, about not seeing
not seeing an MP.
Yeah, I think that's an unfair thing, because constituency has 20,000 people. And I remember when I took over W. Mira, the then person who was mostly the MP for that area, you know, and I say, oh, they come and tell me, oh, we don't say. I said, you know, and I did defend the person, because I said, listen, what do you mean? That person who is a minister, has cabinet responsibilities, trying to run a constituency, right? She or he must course at your house on the same day, at the same time, at the same hour that you are home, when there are 20,000 members in the constituency. I think that is being a bit unfair. What you could say, more cottage meetings, more meetings reaching out, more doing things that involve the community, more encouraging people to come into the constituency and treat them and address their issues. Maybe you could say that, but it's really an unfair thing to say to and there may be some who don't do it at all. I'm not excusing them. But there are those that do. You cannot be, you're just one human being.
Well, I didn't say all, because I know Leon's Laventil East doesn't want to see him go. They were trying to insist for him to stay, because they felt that he was giving them very good representation.
Right.
Now, I will say this. I have always said I don't like the fact that MPs are ministers in our system just for that, because I remember there was a TED Talk of a former minister basically saying, I don't have enough time to do everything that I need to do, because an MP technically is 2 jobs. I need to be in my constituency, but I also need to be in Port of Spain when Parliament is in session. And if you're Tobago East or Mayaro or whatever, you can't be in 2 places at once.
But I will say this, and I think, and this is what we tried to do, and it worked well. You cannot do it alone unless you have competent staff.
Right.
And you have competent, capable staff, and you have good systems and structures put into the system in your constituency. Yes.
No, I'm just going to say politicians these days, with those,
but some of them,
the parties don't seem to be on the ball with their systems. I'll say that.
Well, I won't call the name of the person that I interviewed. But when I listened to him, he reminded me that what we did in my constituency, I was very, very lucky and very blessed. Although one of them did betray me. The Friday I saw him on a platform with Jack Warner. And then, anyway, that's a whole story by itself. But the point was, I had people who had skills. I remember that's back in the day too, fairly.
Yeah.
So they were, everything was computerized.
Oh.
You had, yes, we had, and the person had the computerization certification. We had people who were qualified enough to be able to be professional in the way that they dealt with clients, which we felt they were our clients. And so if you have good systems, good structures, you have people who can, for instance, when you have to go to Parliament, as that person said to me, you'd have 2 people who would do the research. And he would then, of course, tell them how he wants the argument to be thing. He would also have a follow-up system. If 2 weeks pass, something would go off and they say you need to send a letter, or if it needs to go. So you can put systems in place. So but it is
very professional.
Right, and the person was professional.
Now, I want to go back to when you were talking about dealing and treating with humans in times like this, because similar to what I said with regards to the pharmaceuticals, and this was Monday, so there was no way I would have known that you want to talk about this today. In fact, we didn't even talk about this one yesterday. But Monday, after my show, I spoke to someone. Now, she is a migrant. And this poor lady is lamenting with tears in her eyes the state of the economy as she sees it. Because initially, what is the thought? Oh, well, prices get too high, so people will shop at the big supermarkets less. Maybe they'll go to the local market.
They are more expensive, a lot of them are.
Well, here's the thing. So you would think people might be at the local market because it's cheaper. She's saying, no, the local market now is empty too. It's like people don't have enough money to even go there.
But the big ones, I'm telling you, I had a discussion this week, Sunday, I met someone who was lamenting the price of certain products in the large
there
economies
are people
of
in
scale.
this country
just about
that
greed.
Do not shop in the large supermarkets because they can't afford to.
And you know why that does not make sense? Economies of scale.
They're supposed to be, yes.
And not only that, you have reduced some of them, the number of staffing by putting in electronic systems so they don't have to pay after whatever they have to pay by retrenchment or whatever they have to pay. But they don't have to pay pension anymore. They don't have to pay health care anymore. They don't have to get vacation leave. All these things have been taken on, which HR costs have been brought down. And yet, I know for a fact, because I have compared it, I said, you know, one day I'm going to go and take pictures in the supermarkets of the same products and show the big
price difference.
Yes, of the larger operators. I want to know what is the rationale for that.
And my point is, this is someone who's a migrant, who is looking at the country as she travels, you know, via taxi, the people who she interacts with, the places where she shops, and she is seeing signs, right, of economic decline or the potential. And it's breaking her heart in front of me Monday morning.
Oh.
And it's the case where, you know, I think that as much as there are people who can't afford to shop for certain things anymore, somehow, as a society, we are ignorant, I believe. Maybe not completely, but we are too ignorant, however you will interpret that to be, of the conditions of the economy and the conditions of some of our population and how hard it is. And I do think that both rich businessmen, and this is not necessarily intentional, right? But it isn't. But it might.
They have a monopoly. It's not.
No, not the monopoly. What I'm saying.
But that's what
I'm not talking about those specific people, but generally, wealthier people and politicians. They've removed themselves from certain demographics.
Interact with themselves.
And they interact with themselves.
They interact with themselves because a lot of the things that they can do, how you could go on quarry without a license, how you could have a franchise populating the whole of this country without getting a license.
But my point is, Karen, even if they didn't necessarily mean anything in bad faith, by isolating themselves from certain aspects of the population, I think they don't realize the good ones even, right? The bad ones, no. But even those who might be the good ones don't realize, y'all don't seem to be aware of what's going on.
Well, I will agree with that last part. But what I would say, though, having been inside of there, there's no question in my mind that the leadership knows. But there's no question. But I believe they believe that no matter how bad we are or how terrible we are, we'll still win, and that's what we want to do.
Well, I mean, there's a recent quote, we raise the price of gas and it ain't right yet.
Yeah, but I know they do say that a lot of times, but I wouldn't even go down that route. I think they do there, but I think they better rethink that.
The last election or the election before, I can't remember which one, the Minister of Finance, again, these were both quotes from him, we are seen as less corrupt. And it goes back to your point of normalizing corruption. That's all I'll say, because that's what the implication of that is, folks.
And I think it's in the
less corrupt doesn't mean not corrupt.
And I think it's really more in the last 5 years.
Yes.
It's not that there wasn't any corruption in the thing, but I think in the last 5 years is the kind of what we would associate with others. There's a sort of a bold-facedness, a kind of a devil-may-care, and a kind of a brass-facedness that one did not associate with this administration, and that one is seeing.
Yes, there was more positive things to say about the administration. Every now and then you see glimmers of the previous 5 years, right? But
where are the glimmers? No, I'm serious though. No, I'm serious with you. I mean, the hospitals they built, you're talking about that, the
maybe, sometimes they communicate and it's not defensive and it's not bullying people, right? Like the Prime Minister's statements over the passing of...
My God, what was he supposed to do?
No, I know, but I think the emotion that we see from the parliamentarians this time...
It's real.
There's no question in my mind that it's real, as opposed to when there's some other tragedy removed from them, where... you obviously get this is what we're supposed to say and we're saying it.
I understand.
Right? But also some decisions every now and then, when we get a new water well or a new this or a new that, they're not big things. The successes or the wins that the government has now.
How about the 24 new assistant executive directors, when the major problem, and I don't, Marvin Gonzalez, minister, I do have or held in very high regard. I really did. But when I read these things, it worries me. I will just put it that way. It worries me.
There was more of some positive, some negative before, but now, and I had this observation, I believe, about a year or two ago, where all of a sudden the news just, I couldn't find things good to say about government policy anymore at times, and it was concerning, both on the level of, yes, I don't want to make it seem like I'm biased, but I have to speak about what exists, not what I wish it could be, and it's not. And I think you're right though, to some extent, even now with everything that's done, the party of the PNM still has, I believe, some extent of, we still have the advantage. And to some extent, I think even the UNC and people that may support or not necessarily support, but comment on the UNC, right? Maybe not even align, but they will admit, hey, the UNC could easily lose this. When given all of the controversies, it shouldn't be that way. And it's a hell of a way to live when you have a controversial government that has many bad stories in the press. All it took was one bad story and Boris Johnson is gone. But for us, I don't know what it is, if we view the UNC that lowly or they're that unpopular, but it's...
A lot of it is, when I looked at the 2020 results, which I could understand why the PNM would have won, because Mr. Mann, I said it already on this show when it happened, when Dr. Rowley was the Prime Minister, I mean, COVID was really scary.
Yeah.
And I have to say, and I did say it, I thought that the Minister of Health did a good job of coming out every day, even before it became. He was very upfront, talking every day. I gave him a lot of kudos for that. And secondly, you needed a very strong leader, or someone perceived to be a very strong leader at the beginning. Of course, it went too far with the closure of the borders, continuous closure of the border, and it went too far.
Well,
but,
keeping our nationals out.
Yeah, right, and all of that, it went too far. But initially, the fear, I mean, the death rates were so high, I think people were preferred to put their vote with a government that they felt came across as stronger, no nonsense, and you had a Minister of Health who was doing something that was not that he, government
enough people were trusting.
That he was being very much more transparent, and they did handle in the beginning, and it was around the same time it was time to call elections, and he called elections, and you don't blame him for that. This time is a different kettle of fish, because I will tell you, even with all of that, and you look at the results in the 3 Digicel constituencies, the turnout is in the 40th percentile.
Right.
We had the lowest, I've said it before. So even with all of that, people were not prepared to come out and vote for them.
I will say this though, and it was the Minister of Health at least almost 3 times a week, and the Prime Minister will come in maybe once a week, right? So he might take one of those press conferences.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that has kept the UNC not looking as good as it should is the opposition leader does not take a public forum to the degree, like, yes, the Prime Minister isn't there every week now.
He didn't want to be there.
Right?
He didn't want to be there
listen,
so far.
Listen, at the end of the day, he has taken more public questions than the opposition leader.
Yeah, but he's always out of the country, and not only that,
well,
the hard question, the sofa question. I mean, we are, and then the SRC thing is they say to give it us, so we take it, and then the sofa, you can't answer the question. You can't answer the question.
Well, I mean, it is true. He's less and less available. He's less and less available. But
anyway,
let's take a break, folks. When we come back, we'll open the phone lines. I know there are some people are saying, why are you ragging PNM again? But they're the ones in power. They're the ones in power.
Exactly.
Right? If it was the UNC, then it would be the UNC in the hot seat.
Believe you me, it would be.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back after this.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Having trouble Christmas shopping? Check out the Kids Shop today. For all your officially licensed kid character merchandise, we carry characters such as Disney Princess, Frozen, Spider-Man, Paw Patrol, Sonic, My Little Pony, and much more. Call or visit us on Facebook or Instagram. Nationwide delivery available. The Kids Shop, for all your licensed kids character merchandise.
Here's your chance to win a bicycle, a ride-on, or a hoverboard. Shop at dbesttoys.com and spend $300 or more to win big.
We've got Barbie,
Hot Wheels, Gel Blasters, Ride-ons,
Leapfrog,
Nerf, bicycles and tricycles.
Greco and Wonder Baby.
Visit us in store at Forces Flagship, McBean, Movietown Port of Spain, Eastgate Small and M6 Plaza Endeavour. Merry Christmas, everyone!
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
We're back here on Talking About WSN, Content Capital. Just a reminder, mute your televisions when you're on air, because if you try to both speak to us via the telephone and listen in on the TV, there's a delay on the television, so it will not work. Please trust me when I say that. But with that said, we have two callers waiting. I believe the first one is a Rima on the line, managed to sneak in before Digger Martin. Good morning, caller, you're on the air. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, Sean, good morning, I'm Karen.
Morning.
Right, two points I want to bring forward this morning. Trending right now, we are hearing that pensioners who have $25,000 and up would not be entitled to the government. And I'm not sure what that is about on the plate. The second thing is with Miss Karen and the party Hope. One would assume that the person who is in charge of Hope, the political leader, would be making himself more relevant in the public domain, because anything from him in the public domain. And I don't know about privacy, but one would assume that if he needs to be relevant in the coming election is for the next year, which is about 8 or 9 months, that we should start to hear his policies and his positions. I would listen up.
Okay, with regard to the first part, I would have to rely on show me that, because I had some domestic requirements, duties called grandchildren this morning. But with the second part, you know, he has been on a lot of shows, you know, a lot of programs. What happens is that, because I've seen clips on the Hope, Hope has 3 or 4 sites on WhatsApp. So he's been on the, a number of them, and he also issued statements. But I understand what you're saying, but for instance, I'm going to have to be careful about what I say here. But I have really wanted to get on 95.5, because 95.5 has a huge listenership, and I have never been successful. Now, I don't know. I don't know if the political leader is more successful than I have been. I know that Mr. Louis Leasing has been on once or twice. I think the only time they ever called me was when there was some confusion about something. I can't remember what it was, but it was to get my point on
a technical.
Yes, so that was the only time. But they have never given me the space, and I think they have never. I'm not sure that they've done that for the political leader. But certainly, your point is taken. I don't think that he will welcome on every opportunity. Isn't the media going to make that available for him? I don't really want to give a position here or there, because you certainly do not want to antagonize the media. And I think certainly he is prepared to go and answer the questions. I have seen him, I've heard him, and he is able to do that. So I hear what you say, and I'm sure he would be taking into account what you have said. For the other part,
I don't want to cause Karen to get any flack with regards to my commentary on the media, if to go too deep into my opinions on that. But I will say this: politics is in the media. We at WSN, We try to be objective. I'm not claiming that we're perfect. So that's why I say we attempt to be objective in all of our shows. Objective and as unbiased as possible. Regardless of what people may think, who has interest in what, and who is loyal to who, and all of that.
That is true.
Now, with that said, the Miscellaneous Provisions, Senior Citizens Pension and Public Assistance Bill 2024 on December 9th, this was apparently put in Parliament. A major amendment, Section 4G, of the bill states an individual shall not be eligible to receive a pension unless he has savings not exceeding $25,000. So the opposition leader, of course, brought it up on a platform, but that's in Parliament.
Is that kind of
To
contradiction?
receive a pension. You can't, your pension, I believe your government pension, for you to receive that, you can't have private assets of savings of $25,000 or more.
No, that's something is wrong with it because it started by saying it's coming under what it is coming under the public
Miscellaneous Provisions, Senior Citizens Pension and Public Assistance Bill.
You see, public assistance bill. So that's why I have to look at it.
But it says eligible to receive a pension, as in that
right.
is
So that is where I am going to have to look at it.
I wasn't going to speak
public assistance.
And
And
I think the bill includes both. That's why.
Okay, so there's something
right?
that
That's my
needs to
assumption.
be. So if I were to say, when they're talking about public assistance, or like a senior citizen grant, you cannot qualify for senior citizen grant if you have you have income that's the reason behind the senior citizen as a grant.
And the thing is, I understand that they don't want to give pension to people who are wealthy, but 25...
I don't know what that means.
25,000 of savings is not a pension.
No, but I also want to see there's some... I don't know if they're using the word pension loosely.
Right. Okay. Well, I would hope not, because this is a law.
Yes.
This is not just...
Tell me the name of it again.
Section 4G of the Miscellaneous Provisions, Senior Citizens Pension and Public Assistance.
Senior Citizen Pension
and Public Assistance.
That has something to do with the Senior Citizen Grant and Public Assistance, which is not NIS. That's what I'm trying to see.
We have Digger Martin has been waiting on the line. Good morning, caller, you're on here.
Good morning, Sean, and good morning to the former Finance Minister, Mrs. Teixeira. A couple of issues. This thing about pension, I can remember long ago Patrick Manning attempted to change the way it was given. So I'm not too sure it's connected. But I want to talk about the water problem with Marvin Gonzalez. And it shows that he doesn't understand what is happening, and he's trying to portray a narrative. This is a sad tragedy, and I am going to continue to lay the blame on Cabinet. They saw these red flags and fire happening for the last 3 or 4 years. Truck can't reach because of potholes, all kind of thing, and they did not do nothing. Yes, they're feeling it now because they could have intervened. The other point is, Karen, SOFA and Shipwright Agreement, is there any correlation? Because I thought the Shipwright Agreement was kind of draconian if you only want to think about Trinidad as a sovereign country, but it would have helped us in a right kind of way to protect our border. But you know what is close to me? The monopoly of medical and medicine.
Thank you very much. That's close to me too.
And listen to this. This is history. This is close to me. This is experience. That particular company doesn't care about small people like myself. I buy specialist insulin, and it is costly. It is 500 Crestol, I think. Very, very costly. When you have a complaint, they treat you like the S word. And this because of my experience. And I'm not gloating. I want people to understand. I've tried, when it happened to me, I attempted to try to raise it at a national level, and I went to a couple of MPs and nobody take me on. Insulin requires a particular needle. I'm not going to call the brand. And I had a problem with that. When you insert it, it's stuck on your abdomen. I had to go to them for about 15 times complaining about it until a night I got up at 4 o'clock and I told my wife, I say, I'm smarter than this. I deal with multinationals. I wrote to the British company who was making the insulin. They come back to me within 5 days, whereas 4 months, 5 months I was waiting for a response. Within 5 days, they're going to investigate it. 1 month after, they come back, they thank me. It was a real problem. You know what? That 1% person come and tell me, thank me, bring back the one box you have and we exchange it. That is the flippant and the way they treat poor people. I categorize myself as poor people who cannot get the medication out of the policy this government have. Not Patrick Manning, eh? Patrick Manning made it available. It saved me money because I could have go to the NCRHA and get it. Because that whole list of drugs is punishment for poor people who can't have it. And the services, the healthcare system, I mean, I'll begin him up, eh? But there's a term for him, a TT. Terrence, and I'm going to not use the other word. I'm going to have a nice morning.
Okay, I was looking up that thing. It's not the NIS they're talking about, eh?
Right.
It's something to do with, and it comes under the Ministry of Social Development.
Yes.
And it's called the Senior Citizen Pension and Public Assistance Act, right? So let us understand. I mean, I have to research it more, but what I think they're trying to say to you is that NIS is based on your contribution.
Yes, this is
over
a
750 contribution minimum in order to qualify for the NIS when you retire at 60 at a minimum of $3,000. That's a completely different thing. This Senior Citizen Pension and Public Assistance Act, Chapter 3203, is dealing with social benefits. And if you're going to get a social benefit, I have not read the act, but it seems to me what they're saying is that you can't be coming to us for assistance, for public assistance, when you have $25,000 in cash in a bank.
We have...
That's my first reading, but I have to read the act. It's a different thing from your NIS.
Yes, although it's called a pension.
Right, but now, that is probably part of the problem.
Who's the next caller we have on the line? Shogunas on the line. Good morning, caller. You're on here.
Good day.
Good day, good day.
Yes. I just found out last week what is the problem with property tax. I have gone a number of occasions and tell them my name is ready, yes, my name. Until I went last week and somebody put me on to some photographs they had, aerial photographs and whatnot. And then I gave direction and I met my house. And they say, yes, that I said. But I said, what name? And I said, this is a neighbor down the road name. Now, if they had done what Karen had said she was going to do in 2009, which had to be postponed because I think they was dealing with exemptions or something like that, and they had put this thing on the web, everybody could have checked their own. And if there's an error, and this thing will be finished at least 7 or 8 years ago. Because with what they have there, as far as I'm concerned, that will go on forever. Any question or comment?
No, I think you said it right. I think you've summed it up. You need to put it on your website and people to be able to see. And it's ongoing because I can say for myself, I don't think the end of December is going to be the due date because I don't think they will have completed
there are people still stressing out over the fact that they haven't gotten their valuations yet.
And if you haven't valued, then you ask me to pay in what?
Right.
You know,
but the problem is citizens, it stresses out citizens because they don't know what to do. They can't hear about penalties.
Well, I don't want anybody to say, I'm telling you, but if you don't know what you're supposed to pay, how are you going to pay it?
We have another caller on the line. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, Sean. Good morning to the beautiful lady in red there.
Morning.
Listen, I have two questions for the honorable lady, okay? One is, can she give me a undertaking that if she happens to win the government, win the elections, that she'll bring legislation to enact the same pension effort that they tried to push just now with the poor people, with the same politician on them. That same thing. If any one of them have more than 25,000 in their account, no pension for them, including the president, everybody. Secondly, give me the undertaking now, in your own words, ma'am, that you will put something in place whether it be some investigative body or things like that, to handle the amount of corruption that we have had over the years. It doesn't matter who was involved, but please, can you give me that undertaking? And I wait for the response. Thank you.
Okay, I am not a leader of Hope, but I think I can speak for Hope, and I could definitely speak for myself. When it comes to corruption, and I have been tested, believe you me, I won't give you the examples, but I have been tested, and I can assure you, when I say I've been tested, not that anybody came and tried to bribe me, but I have been put in situations where I've had to make decisions, and made decisions which I thought in the interest of the country. So to answer your question, 100%, and no commission of inquiry, 100% you have my assurance. With regards to the first one, the lawyer in me tells me I need to look at that closely, because there's a senior citizens grant, and I'm seeing a senior pension grant, and the public was it? It's two things. And
Yes.
so those are social benefits that do not fall into
There was an article, I sent it to you on WhatsApp, but I don't know if you
Well,
could
I
see it
can't
right
read
now.
it.
Yeah.
What does it
So
say?
the
You say
minister
it.
said the bill, which is in her name, the purpose is to protect the elderly from abuse and to ensure that those who deserve the pension can access it. But then she goes on to say, and you're correct, basically, this pension, it is for the poor, it's for people who do not have $1,000 in the bank. And I think you're right, the issue is by labeling it a pension, because she's saying this pension is something that you don't make contributions for.
Yes.
So this is not a pension plan. A pension
And
plan
it needs to
essentially
change the name.
is somebody makes contributions
So
for it.
I tell the minister, you see, you need to change that name from pension, because that is causing confusion.
And not just that, but her phrasing, a pension is not intended to totally mind someone. It is assistance. A government pension, remember, they don't contribute to it at all. It is not an automatic, and that is what people don't understand. It's a process that has been so for years. So I think she's correct in the sense of, yes, they don't want people to abuse the system. I understand that. When Dollar for Dollar came out, I was like, technically, would we qualify for Dollar for Dollar? We're already paying for my first degree, but it was universal, so technically we did, right? At least.
Who we talking about?
As in me, as in my household,
Oh,
right? Because I thought it was for, you know, if a household could afford it, why are you going for government assistance? But no, it was meant for everybody. Okay, it is what it is. But for this program, it's not, right? But the problem is, like, the confusion occurs when she herself says a pension is not intended to totally mind someone. Technically it is, but this program is not intended to totally mind someone, and it's labeled as a pension.
No, well, a pension is never intended, because that's the problem with a lot of people, and that's why there's also this move that they should include the self-employed in the NIS scheme, because a lot of persons do not realize one day they're going to get old, and when they get old, they're not going to have an income. And they may have a house, now they have to pay all the repairs and all the bills. They no longer get an entertainment allowance if they used to get it. They no longer get in a car if they used to get it. They no longer get somebody paying the insurance for the car where they used to. So their life changes. Yes, and their life changes dramatically. So a pension is not intended to do that for you. You are supposed to be planning for your retirement, and your pension is supposed to be able to. But this situation you're talking about does not fall into that category of NIS. This is people who fall into the persons really
this
in
program,
need.
it's for people really in need, which is why I think the threshold is so low at $25,000.
And that's why the word pensions probably should not be
here.
used.
We have San Fernando on the line. I've still yet to respond to certain things, but San Fernando, good morning, Coley, on here.
Morning, Sean. Morning,
Yes.
Gary.
Morning.
Three things quickly. Firstly, the issue with the license for the quarry in Tobago. You know what I have a problem with the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries, and for the fact that the only thing they have published on their website was the application process, the applications for mining license and the applications for processing license. They have not published, because they have not published anything with respect to who has been granted licenses and the processing or the what you call it. And I can't imagine that the 54 people that apply for mining license, nobody have license. and the 41 that apply for, what you call it, for processing license have no license. So they are the ones that are obscuring the situation and not coming out and saying, this is the case. So they leave, what they do, they leave it for speculation.
But don't think that
that might be what you call it. That might be deliberate.
You nearly calling him minister. I want to tell you. No, I wouldn't call him minister. But what I want to tell you, if you think he acting on his own, if you think what happening there is that he sit down in a corner and doing that, please wake up and smell the coffee. There's something called a prime minister, right?
Yes,
and he is annoyed. So when you want to blame, he cannot stand up and say, Prime Minister, I am going to do this. Because I have done that already in a particular situation. And to the credit of the Prime Minister, he let go of whatever it was. And I never heard another word about whatever it was. He could stand up and say, Prime Minister, this is not right. I went up on their website. When I'm looking for data, why can't I find out what the price of ammonia, nutrient thing? Why can't I find out this? Why can't I find out it? And you know what? You know where I had to find it out? The central bank in a schedule said courtesy the Ministry of Energy. So that means they had to go and get it. Why can't I go on your website and find that information? And so you know what? You know why?
Yes.
That is why he is the anointed one.
Now we have two other points to make. So before we run out of time.
Let me say quickly.
Sorry.
The second thing was the senior citizens, pension or grant.
Yes.
It is time that they make amendments. There is no reason why persons that are self-employed in all spheres of work in this country should not have an opportunity to contribute to the NIS. They are, and it's a simple amendment to let people, because as you said, Karen, some people don't have it in the back of their head that are going to retire someday.
Yeah.
And when things push, when you reach the age and you see people working they're 65, they're 70 because they have no pension. And so that is one of the things that I have a pet peeve that this needs to change. Allow people to contribute in whatever sphere you're working. You should be able to contribute to a pension, because a lot of people don't have the sense to say, let me go to an insurance company and take out a private pension. A lot of them are not informed in that sense. The last thing is, I come to my boy there, Karen, Sean.
Yeah.
Sean, let me say this to you. I listened to you yesterday, and you said something that I was really, really, we have a good banter going on, but sometimes you try to hurt me. You said that you about regrets. You were talking about regrets. Is it yesterday or the day before? You talked about the regrets that regretting not going abroad to study. And let me say
I'm thinking about it more in a way that, yeah.
But I want to say this to you. You are one of the public. Because and I say it in public because you said it in the public though.
Yeah, yeah.
You and Keaton are some of the bright sparks that we need in the country. Because a lot of them have gone. They decide the brain drain. They're looking for betterment, and I can't blame them for going abroad. But let me tell you something. Despite every morning when we have banter and stuff, I have so much respect for you, Sometimes that's why I come down hard on you. I have so much respect for you to come there every day and do this job. Every day and do this job. And let me say this to you. There are a lot of opportunities in this country. And I think if you Mr. Peter, I look at you young people and you're doing a good job.
It's true.
Put that energy into something private for yourselves as well. You have enough time in the day for you to do something else. And you're going to be successful. Because you're already successful. And I say this on behalf of a lot of people who don't say to you, we love you. Seriously.
But listen.
I am so proud of you, Mr. Man. so proud.
Can your head fit through the door?
Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Mr. Sama, I need to end it there before.
Yes,
before. Yes.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
I want to just ask you with the self-employed part. Barbados introduced self-employed into the NIS system, and they use it. And in fact, they make a sort of a, because I know the person who was in charge of reform of the NIS system, and they included self-employed. And they made us an exception for fishermen because the fishermen have a high season and a low season, so they worked with them to work out a special thing. So there is the ability to include the NIS in self-employed into the NIS system.
That's a good point.
And the second part, well, I can't do nothing about that.
I fear our fishermen are not in a good place with regards to support systems and formalizing the industry. Listen, I'll just say this.
What will you see now that's showing?
It's not so much, I'm beginning to regret in the sense of I'm thinking about it more. Whereas before I would think about it and it's like, look, this is the path my life led me to get me here. I wouldn't be here if I didn't go through what I went through and did what I did and lived how I lived, for better or worse. Because there's a lot of better and worse involved. But I'm thinking about where the country is at.
Exactly.
And first of all, this job is not without risks, although depending on your point of view, it'll be higher or lower, right? But you understand.
I do.
You understand. And then second of all, part of it, Mr. San Fernando, is it's easy for you to appreciate it because you understand, regardless of if we agree or not. But I think I am afraid too many people either don't understand or they're not willing to put the time in to understand. They're willfully ignorant because their own lives are more important than the world around them.
But you know, also, Mr. Fernando, I do have to say, I do have to respect Sean, because I have never, ever come to Sean when we discuss a topic before. And sometimes I'm even concerned for my own self to bring it up. I said, oh God, do I need to make more enemies with these people? Because, you know, there's a price you do pay, and I do pay the price. I pay it with my children. The same thing you're talking about leaving the country. You have to ask yourself, why did my children have to leave Trinidad? Why are my children not contributing when they have a mother who's obviously so committed to Trinidad? You have to ask yourself those things. So, you know, you make those kinds of things. And for Sean to do what he does, he is a champion for me. Because sometimes I'm saying, oh God, Sean, you know, I want to bring up this, but, you know, then, you know, it's so controversial. And he never said to me, Karen, don't bring it up. No, go ahead and bring it up.
If anything, she holds me back.
He really is deserving of the praise that you have given to him, honestly.
I will say this. I do think you're overestimating my private abilities. I don't...
Start yourself, Shona, man.
Listen, I think this job very much aligns with a lot of different things when it comes to my personality and skills developed over a long time, right? And that's all I'll say about that.
And you're responsible about it. Oh gosh, that's the thing. Now what are you trying to tell you?
I agree that there were more people in my generation who I wish would be involved, and in many ways, at the very least, they have a better track record than I do. They have a better work history than I do. I will say that up front. And they may have done more things in certain various industries than I have. Or more complex. Definitely, I'm not. Before this show, I would say they would have more accomplishment than me.
Can I tell you something?
Listen, we don't have time. We don't have time.
I want to say this. This is the last show for the season, for the year.
Well,
right?
Maybe not for the year, but for you, yes.
It is the last show for the year. For me. And I just want to say that is one of the things that is lacking in so many leaders, are lacking humility. And what you showed in responding to him is even more giving you things. Okay, done.
I'm just saying the truth, right?
Okay, we done.
A lot of my peers, at least before talking point, would have been a lot more accomplished than me, and I wish they would be involved in some capacity.
All right.
There's so many, and I only know about the young men from my class, from my group in my class. I can't speak to the young men in other schools or the young women. So the amount of untapped potential that we have. I was at some point, hopefully, an old friend might come in who brought up that topic before, and maybe we could continue that discussion, because she brought up that topic months or even last year on this show, Karen, and it's something that a caller brought back last month. And I get that, Mrs. San Fernando, and it's one of those things where, this is an analogy, don't take this literally. I'm the kind of person that does not want to be the smartest person in the room. So I don't want, I mean, I think it's kind of rough if it's I am one of the people left to take the torch and the responsibility.
Sean, I think we better end this story right
I'm
now.
just saying.
Let us end. But no.
I'm just saying.
Don't say anything like that.
But this is my little contribution. So, Paula, thank you for that. It's not that I want to leave. It's just that circumstances are not as nice as it was before. Anyway, we have dollars and cents right after this. So make today a good day, as my coach would say. Thank you, Karen, and all the callers and all the discussions.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, because I won't be here for the
Mr. Delmartin, I have to get this out there. I don't 100% agree about the minister. I think it's more complicated than that. Not that he's in the clear.
True.
Remember your allegiance to the Republic and to each other, and try as much as possible. It's nice to be nice with regards to all of your interactions with everybody you meet. We will see you tomorrow. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
WESN